We've got Steve in Orlando.
Hey, how you doing?
Great. How's your weather, Steve? Steven? Sorry.
Oh man, Tracy knows about this Florida weather, man. It's weird. The air is hot and the wind is cold.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I was. There was a caller earlier who had spoken about. Dang it, give me a second here. He was spoken about the derogatory use of certain words.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was one of those callers that he was referencing to, but. In relation to that, somewhat, how do you feel about like people using the word believe willy-nilly, especially when dealing with something like evolution? Like people say, I believe in evolution instead of accepting it. Then, I mean, it feels at times like that's reinforcing that whole crap about it being a religion.
I think the two are synonymous. As a matter of fact, I define belief as acceptance of a proposition. So I have no problem with it at all.
All right, then.
Yeah, I mean, and actually, and I don't want to get into too much detail, and I don't want to just pimp myself out, but if you go to the ACA website, atheist-community.org, and go on the list of flagship things, there's a link there to the lectures. If you go back to my last lecture, which was on belief, there's at least, you don't have to watch the whole thing, but at the beginning of it, I give my definitions for the purposes of that lecture and what I use generally for belief, knowledge, and reality. I think that beliefs matter. I think that they inform our actions, and knowledge may actually be irrelevant depending on how you define knowledge. And so when somebody says, I see no difference between saying I accept the scientific theory of evolution or I believe that I believe that scientific evolution is valid, however they want to phrase it. Now, there is a usage for belief that is shorthand. It's kind of like faith has different meanings. If it could mean your faith as in a specific faith, which is shorthand for a religion, or it could mean a trusting or reliance upon something just in general, or it could mean trusting or reliance on something in the absence of evidence to support it, or it could mean what I think it is, which is the excuse that people give when they don't have a good reason. And along those lines, there are probably usages of belief that I'm not too happy with, but it really didn't bother me on that
It's like that saying, seeing is believing. And I used to have a dividing line between using the term I believe it and I know it, and what I came to find is that they really are pretty much synonymous. And for me, seeing has become believing. If I don't see it, I tend to say, I'm not sure I believe it. I'll say it's likely, I might use the model, but as far as do I think this is true, usually I withhold that until something is demonstrable.
Yeah, it's like, and to touch on this just briefly, I mean, I believe your name is Stephen. And why? Because you said so and I'm willing to take you at your word, because it's not that big a deal. If I have evidence,
yeah.
And the other thing is that my belief that your name is Stephen is really flimsy. All it would take is some good evidence that you were lying or deceptive or whatever else to change it. And that's the thing about beliefs. And to me, this is exactly consistent with the scientific view. Science doesn't give us absolute answers. Science gives us explanations and models that are the best current explanation of the universe based on our current knowledge. And it's all tentative, and it's all subjected to revision as soon as we get better evidence. And I'm fine with saying that I believe some things loosely, and I believe some things very, very strongly. There are some things that while I don't have an absolute certainty of belief, I'm so certain that it would be absurd to think that they're wrong, and that's where I draw the line on what gets labeled knowledge. I know that the Earth orbits the sun because it would be, the evidence is overwhelming to the point where it would be absurd to find out that it was the other way around.
Oh, okay. I mean, it's not a question of the actual science itself. Like, I'm fine with that. It's semantics. I was just seeing how you felt about the usage of words, that's all.
Yeah, I got other words that I'd rather object to than that one. And some non-words, too. Don't get me started on irregardless. I'd smack somebody.
Yeah, I listen to the non-profits. I've heard you rant on that one.
All right, thanks for calling, Stephen. Appreciate it.
All right, guys. Have a good show.
Okay, welcome everyone. This event is brought to you by the Atheist Community of Austin, a 501c3 educational corporation which is dedicated to support positive atheism and the separation of church and state. Today, ACA presents Matt Dillahunty. Several years ago, lifelong Christian Matt Dillahunty delved into apologetics in an effort to be a better defender of the faith. He was sabotaged in this enterprise by his own intellectual honesty, and somehow found his way to atheism and our little community. Since joining ACA, Matt has worked tirelessly. He has hosted the Atheist Experience TV show during a period of growing worldwide popularity. He is a permanent fixture on the Nonprofits radio show as it has grown from a small listening audience to being one of the most popular atheist broadcasts available, with thousands of regular listeners. Matt is currently serving his third term as ACA president, and has led the group with fairness and intelligence. Under Matt's leadership, ACA has survived and prospered, becoming a more diverse organization that not only serves its members socially, but intellectually as we fight to defend the ideas we think important. Matt is a bit of a celebrity now. A Google search of the name Dillahunty yields many hits on Matt, including his Wikipedia entry. He's especially popular in Australia. Matt's topic for today is belief. Please welcome a true defender of rationality and clear thinking and a personal hero of mine, Matt Dillahunty.
Don is officially hired to write all of my press. Matter of fact, you just cut and paste that on the current ACA posting. It's way better than that. So this is kind of weird. There's a lot of stuff going on with me, and I'm actually working on a couple different lectures. There's a strong likelihood that this summer during the fall semester I'll be going up to Penn State, and so I'm working on a completely different lecture that kind of addresses broader themes. I'm waiting to hear back from them. I'll also be going to UT again. There's a journalism and religion course that a friend of mine is going to be teaching. Eileen Flynn, one of the religion reporters from the States. So I go down there and I usually spend just one class talking to the students about atheism and journalism, because there are problems there. Anybody who's watched TV and seen how atheism is generally represented knows that there are problems there. But it's weird for me to do lectures, because normally when I go to lectures, I tend to go for somebody who's got some expertise in an area. And it's always, it's kind of an argument from authority, but not the fallacious one. You want to hear from experts in an area. So the first couple of lectures that I did for the ACA, the first one was on the history of the biblical canon. Not an expert, just a subject that I found interesting, but I pass along some information. The second one was on hell and the history of hell and art. Not an expert on art or hell. But it was another subject that I found interesting and wanted to pass along. Today, while I don't think I would be recognized as an actual authority, I actually will claim some expertise, because what we're talking about today is beliefs and how we think. And as somebody who actually has beliefs and has been thinking for their entire life, I think I qualify, especially since I've done more thinking in probably the last decade than I did in the couple before it. So how did all this get started? I got an email. One of the things that I talk about on the show all the time is if I'm going to have a conversation with a caller who believes something different from what I believe, I want them to tell me what they believe and why. I may actually agree with them. Depending on their definitions and their justifications, we may find some common ground, or we may find that we actually agree. I may not, but the only way we can really figure out where the differences lie is to talk about it in those terms.